Welcome to Rosebud Homestead. This is a video that I've wanted to do for a really long time, and that is baking off-grid. And so we're going to use a couple of pieces of equipment that I'm already familiar with, but we're going to adjust them and do a proof of concept today in preparation for doing a more extensive video on baking off-grid after this one. So we'll get started in just a moment. So these are the pieces of equipment that we have that we're going to be working with today. This is a little Coleman Camp oven, and it comes in this box and it's completely collapsible, and so it makes it really nice to carry if you want to take it on a camping trip. Now, we've not ever used it on a camping trip. We have a camping trailer, so but it would be nice if we ever needed to do that to know that that's available to do this. Then we're going to be using our EcoZoom Rocket Stove. Now, this camp oven is designed to go over a Coleman Camp Stove, a little propane burning camp stove. Well, I don't exactly like using fossil fuels, and since we have a lot of wood around here, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put it, instead of over a Coleman Camp Stove, we're going to put it over the EcoZoom and see how that works. So the first thing that I want to do is to light the fire here. I have it ready to go, and if you have watched my previous video, you know that I cheat a little bit when I'm starting a fire. So I have in here, I have some Vaseline wrapped around cotton balls, and then I use that paper towel to wipe my hands with, and I just put the paper towel in there too. So we're going to get the stove started, and while it's starting, I'm going to talk about the camp oven. We'll see how this does. Notice that I have the little door open so that we get lots of nice air flow going through there, and hopefully we'll have a good fire starting here very soon. I'm going to drop a couple of more chunks of wood down in here. We'll see how that does. Okay, now this camp stove is very light, so that makes it nice. We've got a little wind today, so forgive the tablecloth for blowing around. And so this is what the inside looks like. If you're cooking over an open campfire, like essentially we're doing here, there's a little bit of soot that gets on the inside of this stove, which is a downside for using wood on it, but really that doesn't bother me at all. I have the rack in here, but the rack is loose because I want to show you how I have adjusted things to make this a little bit better oven for what I'm wanting to do. So the first thing that I added to this little camp stove is this baking stone. It's like a pizza stone. And I looked all over the place on Amazon trying to find one that was an appropriate size. This one is a little small, but it still works. And I just put that right there on the bottom. And now I'll pop the shelf in place. And this has 3 elevations for the shelf, but I always use it right here on this one. Now the purpose of that baking stone is so that that baking stone will collect the heat and hold it, and then it will help disperse it a little bit more evenly, so it helps to hold an even temperature. And so that's that. The next thing that I have that's going to be a little bit different is, ultimately, I am wanting to do my artisan bread. That's what I'm wanting to find out if I can do. That's our proof of concept for the underlying pieces to get into place that will help me decide whether or not we're going to go to that next step. So I need something that is a little bit more insulated shall we say, because of course there's no insulation on this at all. And I've tested this before, and I can only get this up to about 350. If I really have a good fire under it, it'll get up to between 350 and 400, somewhere in there. I need, for artisan bread, for it to get up to 460 degrees. And that's pretty hefty, and I don't want that temperature to dissipate quickly. And so I thought about a whole lot of things that I might possibly use for insulation. And my brother is a welder, has been a welder for 40 years. So I called him and talked to him about the problem, and he suggested, why don't you just get a little welding blanket and put a welding blanket over the outside? And so that is exactly what I did. This was the welding blanket that I bought. It is a Tillman medium duty welding blanket, and it is called thermofelt. I did not want anything that was fiberglass because I'm going to be handling it, and I didn't want those shreds to get into my hands. And I can put the source where I got this, I checked this morning, they no longer have this, and I bought a 3x3. And I'll tell you why I got a 3x3, and then I'll put at the bottom of the video a couple of sources where I found this today on the internet. This area is 1 square foot. So, and the whole thing is, this is 1 cubic foot, so it's a 1 square foot here and here and here, and also in the back. And so I got a 3 foot by 3 foot, and then I cut a foot off the bottom, and this is the foot that I cut off the bottom. I won't be using that. And then what I'm going to do, and again, we're just doing proof of concept today, so we'll see how this works. I've not used this before. And so the reason that we use a welding blanket is that they're not flammable, so it's not going to burn, and this one will work for up to 500 degrees. And so this should be fine. So I'm just going to kind of wrap it like this. Now, I need to leave these sides loose a little bit because there are vents in the side. It's going to need to have some air circulation. And so this is just going to hold the heat a little bit without being a really tight stocking over the top. I debated about what to do with these corners. I thought maybe I would just cut them off and leave these flaps loose, so this would be a flap on this side. I don't know. We're going to see today how it works. Then the other thing that I wanted to show you was the size of pans that will fit in this oven. So I went through my baking pans and found everything that will fit. And so this is just an 8-inch cake pan, and it fits just fine. In fact, we're going to use it today because we're going to bake these biscuits, which I can't stand, but it's an easy thing to do. This 6-hole muffin tin works just fine. That fits right in there, and the door still closes just fine. And I have baked muffins in here without this thermal lining too, so that's okay. And then I can get 2 loaf pans this size. I can even get 2 loaf pans of the next size up right in here. So I could bake 2 loaves of regular bread in this oven just fine. And then last of all, this little 8x8 pan. And we could make like the enchilada casserole or something like that in this pan, and it fits just fine in there too. So let's see what we can do. Our fire looks like it's going pretty well. Having this air door open really helps keep the fire going. Okay, so that baking stone is still in place. And we're just going to lift this up and put it right on the top. I have used this oven on the rocket stove that we built out of cinder blocks in our one of our last videos, so I know that it works there. So I'm thinking that it ought to work just fine on the EcoZoom as well. Now I'm going to put this little blanket over the top, and I might have to go get some clips in the wind. And we have a temperature gauge right here. So I want this to get up to, let's see what our biscuits require. 400. So we have a little ways to go, and we'll watch this thermostat as it comes up to 400. It needs to be clear over to here, and to bake my bread that I'm really wanting, it will have to get all the way over to here. So after we bake our biscuits for today, I'm going to stoke up the fire and just see if I can get it up that high for, see, this is proof of concept day, so I'm going to see with this thermal blanket if I can get it up that high. Without this welding blanket right here, previously I was not able to get it up to that temperature. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, and we'll wait for this to start to climb. So we'll be back when we're up to temperature. It took about 15 minutes to get it up to temperature, and my gosh, it went clear up to 400, and while we were fussing with other stuff, it got up to 450. So I think that part of our proof of concept is in pretty good order. So I have popped our little tube of biscuits, and I'm ready to put them in the oven. And let's see what our temperature says right now. It is a little bit higher than 400. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in. And they have to cook for 10 minutes. So we'll come back in about 10 minutes and see how they look. All right, time is up, and let's check our biscuits. There they are. A little smoky, but mostly they're just really okay. And this is a prettier brown than I have gotten before, and I think that one of the reasons is because I have been able to maintain the temperature. There are about 3 things that you can do to help control the temperature of this oven with the EcoZoom. One of them is by pulling the wood in and out, whichever you need to do. The other is controlling this air intake. When you close the air down, that means it's going to have less oxygen in there, and so it's going to just smolder instead of really burn. So if you're wanting for the temperature to go down a little bit, you can close the air. If you're wanting a nice high fire, then you can open that up. And then the other thing that I figured out, you may have noticed that I did put clips on the side here, and so when it got overheated, part of that may be because the welding blanket is really insulating things, and so I just pulled this leg of this clip out and let it go like that on either side to hold it so that it would not go flat against the sides of the oven. And that seemed to work really well. That helped cool it down just a little bit. So sometimes in the middle of things you just make do and figure stuff out that works for the best. Now it's up to 400, and we're just going to let it keep burning to see if we can get it all the way up. We're going to not put this on the video, but to further test our concept, I'm going to see if I can get it up way high. So this concludes this video, proof of concept. I think that the welding blanket works very well, and we've been able to control the temperature. The biscuits turned out just fine, and I think we've gotten this little oven to the point where we can raise the temperature beyond where we have done before, so that's a good thing. So the next off-grid baking video we do will be our artisan bread. And so look for that in, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. We'll see how it goes. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.